When reporting on stories, should journalists use the word terrorist to describe someone who might be a radical extremist? Well, AJ Plus actually has an interesting explanation for this, and they discuss why they don't believe in using the word terrorist. Take a look.
The general meaning of terrorism has changed over the last century. It once referred to revolutionary movements, and then repressive governments. But today, there's actually no universal definition of terrorism, and the UN has been working on it for over 20 years. The US Department of Defense does have a definition, though. They say terrorism is the unlawful use of violence or threat of violence often motivated by religious, political, or other ideological beliefs to instill fear and coerce governments or societies in pursuit of goals that are usually political. That's not broad at all.
All right, so they explain how it's obviously very broad, and to be quite honest with you, it's very much overused, especially after 9/11. Now, they explain what they use instead of terrorist in the rest of the video, and you guys can check that out in the link in the description box. It was actually a really interesting explanation of why they're doing what they're doing. But what do you think about that, Cenk?
So I like that they're going in and trying to explore the word, because the word is one of the most misused and often used words that we have in politics. So first of all, I thought the definition was if you're targeting civilians, right? But interestingly, that is not really the heart of the definition according to the U.S. government. And so according to the U.S. government definition that you just saw there, I mean, almost anything qualifies as terrorism, including what we do, you know.
Yes. But we don't describe what we do as terrorism.
Like, oh, well, we don't have a political goal and we're not looking to intimidate. I mean, remember what Dick Cheney said before we went into Iraq. Well, Iraq is from this region where the terrorists came from, and we have to teach them a lesson. That sounds like you would like to intimidate them and terrorize them until they don't fight back, and even not even the people who hit you, but from the people who come from the region that hit you, right? As broad as that is, right? So, but even if you're talking about killing civilians for political purposes, we kill a lot of civilians. Now, we always say we had good intent, right? But we do kill civilians, and a lot of them, and oftentimes more than the other side does. But we say they have bad intent. So how do you put bad intent into a definition?
Yes.
Like, don't worry, we're not terrorists because we're the good guys. Then there's a whole other level of just every government now, just whoever their opponent is, terrorist. Like Erdogan in Turkey, everybody who opposes him. The newspapers that have been around for, you know, decades and decades in Turkey, well-established, well-respected newspapers, terrorists. Right?
Yes.
Putin, everybody who opposes him, terrorists. Us, everybody who opposes us, terrorists.
Yeah, look, there are two issues that I have with this. First of all, when you overuse the word terrorism, it loses its meaning.
That's
so
right.
now, whenever I hear terrorist on television or any other media report, I immediately assume, oh, this is something that's blown out of proportion. I don't take it as seriously. The second thing is, you know, Cenk touched a little bit about the double standard regarding international policy. If other governments do terrorism, it's labeled as terrorism. If the U.S. does it, of course it's not labeled as terrorism. But the same thing happens domestically. If a Muslim does something, like let's say the Boston bombing, right? They're terrorists. But if you have a white person shoot up a movie theater in Colorado, that's not referred to as terrorism. So that double standard certainly exists on a domestic level and an international level. So you have to be consistent.
And you say, well, okay, well, the guy in Colorado who shot up the movie theater, it wasn't for a political or religious reason. He's nuts. Well, how about the right-winger guys who go in and shoot up a church because it's a liberal church? Well, that's clearly for a political reason. How about the right-winger guys who go and shoot up the
abortion doctor?
Abortion doctors, Jewish community center in Kansas, the Jewish Museum in Washington. Those are all political and religious, right? But they're not terrorists because they're white and they're right-wing, right? So, I mean, the hypocrisy abounds. On the Palestinian issue, so some Palestinians, if you believe in the definition being targeting civilians, Hamas targeting civilians, clearly terrorists, right? Menachem Begin, who wound up becoming the prime minister of Israel later, was part of a group that attacked a civilian hotel on purpose. They knew it was civilian. It wasn't an accident. They targeted. By any definition, terrorism. But people will get like, how dare, what do you mean how dare? It matches every definition there is. No. We're the good guys. Anything we do by definition is the right thing to do. Anything they do by definition, terrorism. Well, then the word has lost all meaning. And so that's why you've taken away its power. Anna's right. It used to have some power, like, whoa, terrorists, bad guys. Now it's become ridiculous to the point where you can't really pay attention to it. No, the opposition newspapers, they're not even opposition newspapers. The independent newspapers in Turkey are not terrorists.
Right.
The people opposing Putin are not terrorists, okay? And if the Palestinians targeting civilians are terrorists, certainly Menachem Begin was a terrorist. I'm telling you, reaction to this video will be heads exploding. How dare you? That was a beloved Israeli prime minister. And by the way, you want to look, Begin did do some good things in his life. That's why it's nuanced, it's complicated. It's not like good, evil, and that's, but they're bad guys, we're good guys. Begin did some good things in his life, he did some bad things in his life. You can't oversimplify by just using one label against one set of people.
Exactly. These are all very nuanced issues, and it's important to explore them, which is why I love that AJ Plus does explore these issues. If you guys haven't subscribed to AJ Plus's videos, please do so. They have an awesome YouTube channel. There is a link to the description box below, so click on that, subscribe. They've got lots of good stuff.